another example, a little bit trickier. We have some negatives, and we have a little more action with our polynomial here. We've got a coefficient on the squared term, and the numbers are a little bit larger, but our approach is the same. We're going to see that this has to be set up with long division because we have two terms in the divisor. So it's going to have this sort of a setup. As soon as I have my long division problem set up, I'm going to make those columns. Remember, staying organized is really half the battle with these problems. So a good organization is going to make your flow through these problems a lot smoother. Okay, so where do we start? We start with our terms that are on the left. Y times what is going to get us to 2y squared? Or you could think of it in reverse with division, 2y squared divided by y. So these are my thoughts here. Y times what equals 2y squared. And so I would come up with, we need to have a 2, and we need to have one more y in there to get us from 1y over to 2y's, this y squared. So we need another y, and we need a 2, a coefficient of 2. Y times 2y will give us a 2y squared. And if you set it up with division, you ought to be coming up with that same result, 2y. That's the first term in our answer, and so the terms for our answer go on top, and we put it in the column for regular y's. What do we do as soon as we've put a term on top? The very next move is multiply back down. And multiply back down twice. Don't forget that negative 3. The 2y times y, there's the 2y squared. The 2y times negative 3 is negative 6y. Our next move is to subtract, and I will always advocate that you flip signs and add. If we don't do that, it's easy to go off path with this negative 13 minus negative 6. I say don't do subtract. Just flip your signs, make it a negative 2y squared and a positive y, because it's easier for me if I set it up that way to see that this answer, this result right here, is going to be a negative 7y. And we'll bring down the next term, the positive 20. And there's the end of our first round. We're going to start the second round, which is now this y times what is going to equal negative 7y. Y times what equals negative 7y, or you could set it up in reverse with a division. Negative 7y divided by y equals what? Now remember, you don't really have to think of both of these ways. I want to show you both ways. My preference is I usually just think of it with the multiply. Y times what equals negative 7y. Other people have a preference to think of it with the divide. So you really just need to settle on one of these two ways, the way that feels most comfortable for you for coming up with the result. Hopefully here you're seeing that it's going to be a negative 7. So we put that term, the next term in our answer, up top. It's in the column for regular numbers. As soon as we have put a term on top, you know what the next step is. It is multiply back down. And it's going to be multiply back down twice. Negative 7 times y and negative 7 times negative 3. So we're going to come up with the negative 7y and a positive 21. We're ready to do the subtract. Of course, I say flip signs and add. So the negative 7y with the positive 7y cancel. The positive 20 with a negative 21, they don't totally cancel. We have a negative 1 left over. So nothing left to bring down. This negative 1 is a remainder. We're pretty much at the end of the problem. You just need to know how do we write the answer when we have a remainder. You use this remainder to create a new fraction, a fraction that's going to become the tail end of your answer. This remainder is going to be in the numerator. Your divisor, the y minus 3, that's going to be in the denominator. So when we write our answer, it's definitely going to start with this 2y minus 7, and then we have to add in a fraction. Add in because we have a remainder. So we're adding in this fraction that has a negative 1 in the numerator, and the y minus 3 is in the denominator. And there's our answer. And that's how we'll always deal with those cases where we end up with a remainder. You just create a new fraction that gets added on to the end of your answer. The remainder goes into the numerator. this divisor is your denominator.